A young man grappling with the harsh echoes of his past while teetering on the edge of existence. Desperate to survive despite the lingering scars left by his orphanage's hurtful criticisms, Atsushi finds himself pushed to a drastic decision to steal from the next person he encounters. Fate, it seems, intervenes swiftly as he stumbles upon a curious sight, a man drifting along the river's current, none other than Osamu Dazai. Rather than succumbing to a comical end, Atsushi leaps into action and saves Dazai. Struck by the boy's evident hunger, Dazai graciously invites him to a meal covered by his partner, Doppo Kunikida. Amidst their conversation, the topic drifts to their professions, both belonging to the enigmatic armed detective agency, a group of sleuths endowed with extraordinary abilities tackling cases too perilous for conventional law enforcement. They discuss their unique careers. Kunikida's inquiry about a white tiger haunting the town triggers a palpable fear in Atsushi, who nervously confesses that the beast has been shadowing him, instilling a sense of impending danger. Intrigued, Dazai takes Atsushi to a warehouse, intending to lure out this spectral tiger. As they wait, Dazai maintains an unruffled demeanor, while Atsushi grows increasingly convinced that the tiger is lurking among the warehouse shelves. To Atsushi's astonishment, Dazai calmly reveals a shocking revelation. The white tiger Atsushi fears is none other than himself. Over the past weeks, Atsushi has inadvertently transformed into this fearsome creature under the moon's full gaze, akin to the legendary werewolf. As Atsushi unconsciously shifts into his tiger form, Dazai, wielding his own extraordinary power, intervenes to prevent any harm. Awakening from his transformed state, Atsushi finds himself surrounded by the members of the agency, and Dazai unveils his true nature as the tiger, ultimately recruiting him into their fold, despite Atsushi's bewildered confusion. Now after that, we find Atsushi waking up in the living quarters of the armed detective agency. His day takes an unexpected turn when Dazai urgently contacts him about a critical situation. Rushing to the scene, Atsushi encounters Dazai in a precarious position, stuck in a barrel and attempting self-harm. Acting swiftly, Atsushi intervenes to rescue Dazai, showcasing his empathy and quick thinking in a challenging moment. Feeling uncertain about his future with the agency, Atsushi considers seeking employment elsewhere. Surprisingly, Dazai offers his aid in finding an alternative job for Atsushi. However, their plans shift when they encounter Kunikida, who rushes them to a real emergency unfolding in the city. A tense situation arises as a man holds a hostage and threatens to detonate a bomb inside a building. Using an unconventional method of rock, paper, scissors, Dazai and Kunikida decide who will divert the criminal's attention. Kunikida loses and finds himself in an awkward position, unable to negotiate. Taking matters into his own hands, Atsushi cleverly disguises himself as a newspaper boy, successfully distracting the man from the bomb. This diversion allows Dazai to restrain the assailant. Despite their efforts, the situation intensifies as the man triggers the bomb's countdown. In a selfless act, Atsushi throws himself over the bomb to shield others. Fortunately, the bomb doesn't explode. It becomes evident that the whole event was a test to evaluate Atsushi's character for membership in the armed detective agency. The agency's president delegates the decision to Dazai, who acknowledges Atsushi's bravery and willingness to protect others. Recognizing these admirable qualities, Dazai approves Atsushi's membership, welcoming him into the agency as a valued and deserving member.
After that, Tanizaki extends a heartfelt apology to Atsushi for his previous unkind behavior during the entrance exam. As a member of the esteemed armed detective agency, Tanizaki introduces himself and his sister Naomi, warmly welcoming Atsushi into their fold. With his official induction into the organization, Kunikida charges Atsushi with the responsibility of upholding the agency's honorable reputation. A playful moment ensues as Atsushi attempts to guess the former professions of his senior colleagues, engaging in a lighthearted exchange. However, the atmosphere quickly changes when Tanizaki receives a crucial call from a client seeking the agency's assistance. Their new female client requests aid in surveilling her company's back alley, suspecting a group of possible smugglers lurking in the vicinity. Kunikida assigns Atsushi to partake in the stakeout alongside Tanizaki and Naomi. He offers a cautionary warning to Atsushi about Akutagawa, a formidable member of the notorious underground organization Port Mafia, advising him to flee if confronted by this menacing figure. Meanwhile, at a police station, Akutagawa, although returning a lost bag, effortlessly overpowers officers who recognize him as a wanted fugitive. Subsequently, as he leaves the scene, the bag he previously left behind explodes. As Atsushi, Tanizaki, Naomi, and their client, Higuchi, arrive at the designated area, they encounter a tense situation. What was supposed to be a surveillance mission takes a dangerous turn when Higuchi, a member of the port mafia opens fire, prompting a swift and violent altercation. In a moment of fury, Tanizaki unleashes his ability, Light Snow, aiming to eliminate Higuchi, but Akutagawa intervenes by fatally attacking Tanizaki. The situation escalates rapidly as Akutagawa confronts Atsushi, introducing himself and using his ability, Rashomon, to capture the were-tiger. A harrowing turn of events follows as Akutagawa uses Rashomon to sever Atsushi's leg, leading to a desperate attempt by Atsushi to retaliate, eventually triggering his own latent ability, transforming him into a tiger. Just as the situation teeters on the brink of a full-blown confrontation, Dazai arrives, using his ability to neutralize both combatants. He reveals having listened in on their initial encounter, intercepting the conflict in time. Akutagawa, retreating for now, vows to capture the were-tiger for the hefty bounty, while Higuchi, in a moment of threat, is surprised when Dazai unveils his own knowledge about the port mafia, hinting at his own past involvement. Now Atsushi wakes up after his intense encounter with Akutagawa. Kunikita, trying to maintain composure, advises Atsushi not to panic despite the dangerous bounty now on his head. Observing Kunikita's attempt to conceal his anxiety, Atsushi suspects that the agency might be in peril because of his presence. Kunikita warns him of the looming threat from the mafia and encourages Atsushi to ponder his options. Elsewhere, in a clandestine operation, Ryuro Hirotsu from the Port Mafia's Black Lizard leads an infiltration mission at a workers' base suspected of illicitly trading port mafia cargo on the black market. Discovering incriminating evidence, Hirotsu orders the execution of the workers before the base is ruthlessly bombed. Atsushi, learning of the Black Lizard's danger from the crowd gathered at the scene, senses an imminent threat. Fearing for the safety of his newfound companions, Atsushi decides to leave the agency. He contacts Higuchi, offering himself as bait to protect his comrades from harm. Bid a perplexed farewell by Kunikita, Atsushi sets this plan in motion, unaware that his actions trigger a chain of events leading to a sudden assault by the Black Lizard on the agency. Meanwhile, Akutagawa visits a young girl in confinement, demonstrating his formidable power, Rashomon. Despite attacking her, he's surprised by her unwavering determination, ultimately sparing her life. As Black Lizard launches a frontal assault on the agency, Atsushi, wandering outside, hears the commotion and rushes back. To his surprise, he finds his comrades, Kunikita, Kenji, and Yosano, easily overpowering the attackers. Struck by the contrast between the violent display from the agency and his expectations, Atsushi is reprimanded by Kunikita for abandoning his post, despite being part of the agency now. Overwhelmed by conflicting emotions, Atsushi chuckles and hides his tears, seemingly a mix of joy and relief from Kunikita and others. The armed detective agency grapples with the aftermath of Black Lizard's recent assault on their headquarters. Amidst the cleanup, Kunikita assigns Atsushi the task of partnering with the enigmatic Rampo to delve into a murder case. Despite the agency members' admiration for Rampo's detective prowess, Atsushi harbors initial doubts about the great detective, noting Rampo's apparent lack of knowledge in everyday tasks. The duo arrives at the crime scene, greeted by Officer Minora, who promptly informs them that their assistance is no longer required. The victim, Yamagiwa, one of Minora's subordinates, was discovered floating in the river that morning, presenting a baffling mystery with no leads. Just as the police pull another person from the river, none other than the agency's own Dazai, drifting aimlessly. Minora asserts the superiority of his team, deeming Rampo's involvement unnecessary. To challenge this assertion, Rampo tests a fellow officer, Sugimoto, asking him to solve the case in 60 seconds, a task that eludes Sugimoto's abilities. Subsequently, Minora challenges Rampo to prove his worth rather than undermining the police's capabilities. Employing his keen intellect, Rampo activates his super deduction ability, stunning everyone by accusing Sugimoto as the culprit. Requesting Sugimoto's gun as evidence, Rampo unveils the lack of bullets, effectively identifying the crime scene's location. A tense moment unfolds as Sugimoto, silent and later wielding his gun toward Rampo, is restrained by Atsushi. The interrogation reveals Sugimoto as a spy for a Diet member embroiled in corruption. Confronted by Yamagiwa with evidence, Sugimoto's threats led to an accidental fatal gunshot. Seeking aid from the Diet member, Sugimoto orchestrated the scene to implicate the mafia in the crime. With the case resolved, Minora extends gratitude to Rampo and expresses regret for his earlier dismissal. On their journey back to the agency, Dazai enlightens Atsushi about Rampo's exceptional intellect, clarifying that Rampo doesn't possess any supernatural ability. Instead, Rampo relies on his extraordinary intelligence and deduction skills, garnering immense respect within the agency for his detective prowess. The chaos ensues as Dazai once again attempts a peculiar form of suicide by consuming a poisonous mushroom. Amid Atsushi's frantic efforts to counteract its effects, Kunikita diligently completes paperwork, despite Dazai's persistent pestering. However, their routine is abruptly disrupted when the agency's president tasks Kunikita with investigating the mysterious disappearances plaguing Yokohama's visitors. The trio, accompanied by Rokuzo Taguchi, a cyber hacker under Kunikita's employment, seeks information regarding an anonymous tip linked to the case. Rokuzo discloses that the tip originated from the enigmatic Azure Messenger. Upon Kunikita's call, a cab arrives to transport them to an abandoned hospital mentioned in the tip. Meeting the cabbie, an informant for the agency, Atsushi is introduced to their peculiar ally. As they explore the desolate hospital, they are alerted by a woman's distressing cries. Rushing to her aid, they discover Nobuko Sasaki trapped in a glass tank on the brink of drowning. Kunikita takes action, firing at the glass and successfully rescuing her. Sasaki reveals that other captives remain in the hospital, prompting the group to locate them. Tragically, a fatal gas is released, claiming the lives of the remaining captives despite their efforts to save them. News of the agency's inability to rescue the victims spreads, casting a shadow over their efforts. Visiting Sasaki recuperating in the infirmary, she expresses gratitude for their rescue attempt. Subsequently, Kunikita uncovers a startling revelation, identifying the possible culprit behind the abductions. Calling upon the cabbie, Kunikita accuses him of being the kidnapper linked to the disappearances, unraveling his motives and association with organ traffickers. Seeking protection in exchange for surrendering himself over a Port Mafia abduction, the situation takes a dire turn as the Mafia launches an attack on their cab. Amidst the chaos, Dazai pursues the fleeing cabbie, while Atsushi tries to summon backup. Kunikita faces off against Akutagawa, only for their confrontation to be halted by the timely arrival of the police. The cabbie is apprehended by the authorities, leading the group to head to the supposed meeting place with the traffickers. The building turns out to be the former hideout of the Azure King, a figure from the past known for a devastating explosion that claimed several detectives' lives, including Rokuzo's father. Kunikita grapples with the guilt of his involvement in the tragic incident. In a shocking turn of events, they receive a bomb disarmament request from a client, revealed to be the enigmatic Azure Messenger, raising the stakes and leaving the team facing an ominous challenge, poised on the brink of an unresolved, tension-filled juncture.